Welcome back to Switch to Linux. So today we're going to be talking about OpenMediaVault. I will show you my OpenMediaVault build, which is half torn apart right here. I will be talking about considerations if you want to put one on a Raspberry Pi. And then we'll go into the configuration panel and show you how to set up a few folders and do a few other items in there. So OpenMediaVault is a very nice platform. It is based on Debian, and that's actually why I use it. There's a lot of good open source media centers. I try and stay in the Debian branch when I can because I'm the most familiar with it. So if there's some issue, I can generally solve it with less research than if it were an Arch or some other base thing that I don't know nearly as much about. And so for me, anything I'm doing that's production, I try and stay in Debian as much as possible. And this is actually my production computer, which is not online right now, obviously, because it's in pieces in front of you. So we're going to be talking about that. So first, let's go ahead and talk about my build. For OpenMediaVault, you need an operating system disk, and then you need other disks that you are actually configuring as your storage disks. So like many of my Linux distros, I'm running this on a USB key. So this is a 16 gigabyte SanDisk USB 3 drive. I think it's a USB 3 drive. It is black, not blue, but I believe it is a USB 3. This guy here, something that you should do on a regular basis as part of your strategy is probably make a backup of this. All right, so here is actually the operating system, and all I'm going to do right here is every now and again you should come in here and make sure you have a backup of this. So if the thing goes dead, you can just reburn it onto a drive. So I'm just going to come over here into disks, and I'm going to create a disk image. And let's see, I'm going to call this OpenMediaVault, what is it? This is the 8th. It's the 8th, 817, and backup. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that, and I'm just going to go ahead and save it to the desktop right now. It'll get put into my master backup computer at a later date. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Start Create button. Every now and again, you want to make sure you have your backups. So I don't change the operating system on this a lot, and so usually once a month is generally good. So it says 10 minutes remaining, so that's fine. I'm going to use the next 10 minutes here or so to talk about my build. So I built mine out of just one of these little micro tower computers. This is an Inspiron 3252. So these little micro towers are fairly low power. This guy actually cost me about $5 a month to run. It is a 19.5 volt, 3.34 amp. So what is that, around 64 watts or something? And then, of course, you can calculate your power by multiplying that by the number of hours it's on, approximate number of times in the day. And so these guys generally, they have a CD drive and they have one internal hard drive, which is a standard 3.5-inch drive. So what I did with mine is I have disconnected the CD player, although I do keep the CD player in there just because it's a nice seal. What I did then is I got a little set of connectors that is going to convert my 3.5-inch drive to a bay to put two laptop hard drives in there. So these are 1 terabyte laptop hard drives, and I have these guys set up. Ooh, I always get this wrong. I think it's a RAID 0, whichever one duplicates each drive. So if there's a failure in one hard drive, I still have a second hard drive that works. The other thing I had to do is the power supplies in these usually comes with a hard drive power supply and a DVD power supply, which is a little bit smaller. So I ended up just buying a splitter. So I just, the DVD one just sits off the side, and then my main system splits off into two, and then I just, borrowed the SATA cable, no big deal. So essentially everything is in here just fine. So then I just set this guy in and just kind of put it right back together. Hopefully it'll go back together without me missing anything. So that's essentially all I did. Nothing really special to this. I think the splitters, I had to buy one extra. Actually, I don't think I had to buy an extra HDMI cable or SATA cable for this. I think I did just to make it easier to work with, but it will come with two SATA cables in it. I did have to buy the new mounting brackets, which I think cost me like, I don't know, $8 or something. Of course, the 2 hard drives replaced the big hard drive with 2 little hard drives. So that's kind of how that is. We have the Ethernet port. There's a series of USBs. There is an HDMI port if you do actually need to plug this guy in. Usually what I do is I turn on the SSH server, and then I'll just SSH into it through one of my other computers. So that's that part. Now we're just going to go ahead and put the front back on. This might actually be a really good system also if you want to make a media server. In fact, this would make a really good media server. That might be something I experiment with, is rebuilding OpenMediaVault on a Raspberry Pi and then converting this to the media center, because my media centers are not always turned on. And that would probably save me some power if I did that. So that is that guy there. Looks like I have 7 minutes left on my backup. So we'll talk about the Raspberry Pi next. Okay, so that's all there is to this guy. Nice and easy format, and I ended up buying this as an open box special from Best Buy, and then I talked them down a little bit more. I'm pretty good at negotiations, so I talked it down a little bit more, so that we ended up, I think I only ended up paying like $150 for it. So that was a good buy. So now we'll talk about the Raspberry Pi. So assume you have a little Raspberry Pi and you'd like to connect OpenMediaVault. There are, on the download pages, you will have the option to find a disk image for the Raspberry Pi. Your challenges, of course, with the Raspberry Pi is you have to be careful of the amount of power output coming out of your ports. So you don't want to have too much power being drawn through this, or you could probably fry the Pi out. And you don't want to do that. So what my solution is for that is to get one of these USB hubs. Now this is a USB 2 hub, not a USB 3 hub, which is probably fine because these are USB 2 ports, not USB 3 ports. And that's actually why I went with the 2. I saved myself like $15 and went with the 2 instead of the 3. The reason you want to use one of these is get one with the external power supply, because now your external power now has the capability of running all of your components. And bonus, you can run your Pi off of this while the other devices are running off of this. So how I always set that up, of course I don't have this plugged in, so of course you run your power through there. This guy here is the thing that pushes the power through the ports. And so I'm going to do that, and into the Pi I'll plug this into like the first drive up here, and then that is going to make sure that any USB devices plugged into this are going to be running into the Pi. And then what I'm going to do is use another USB cable. And since these guys push out enough output to power any USB device, I'm going to basically put the first line cable out of there back into the Pi's power line. Okay? And so now I have a system that kind of looks like an infinite loop, but the one is this guy's power is supplying the Pi, and then the Pi is receiving USB input from this device. And then what you need is just a series of external drives, and plug your external drives in. This might actually cut your power back quite a bit, being as that this is only a 5-volt 2 amp, and your main computer was at 19.5 volt and 3 amps. So you're saving quite a bit of power if you're doing this, particularly useful for an always-on system. Another major advantage of using the Pi for this is in the case of a power outage, this computer always goes off, and I can always tell if there's been a power outage if my NAS is not turned on. I usually don't realize it's not turned on until I actually need it. So that's a consideration. Also, if you're not going to be doing a lot with your NAS, you can get away with using 256 gigabyte USB drives instead of external hard drives. You could do that as well. But regardless, with this setup, you'd have a system very much like this. figure out a way to manage those cables cleanly, or put all this in a box or something, and you'd have a really nice system. So you can go the traditional route with a computer, or you can go a Raspberry Pi route. Either one will work. All right. So the next thing what we're going to do is we're going to have a quick look at their website. And so here we are on their website. It's openmediavault.org. There is, I'll mention here at this point, one of the disadvantages that I've seen is that as I've been using this for a few versions now, and each time the versions change, I end up with, there will be some plugins that are no longer supported, which is good. They're removing old plugins, but it's bad in that they're not replacing them. So, for example, there used to be a Calibri server plugin. So if you want an ebook server. Now, I built an ebook server on my OpenMediaVault system. You can go back and check my video for how to do that, and it's all nice and automated. I have a folder where anything that gets dropped into that folder gets automatically added to the server. The downside is if I need to edit the server, delete books or whatever else, I'm finding myself having to SSH into the thing because, you know, all the Calibri stuff is done on a terminal. There's also no Nextcloud or OwnCloud install anymore. There used to be, again, that went defunct. They never replaced it. So you can install an OwnCloud or Nextcloud on the system, but you have to do everything all manually through a Debian web server install. And that may or may not be something you're into. I have not personally done that yet. It is on my radar of things to do, and I just haven't decided if I'm going to be building Nextcloud on my hosting services on my VPS, or if I'm going to do that on my internal Office system. I just don't know yet. But there are a variety of other plugins that are still available that are very useful. So you can come over here, and under the About, you can see the types of functionality. I don't really care that the plugins and stuff don't work quite as well, because this drive does everything I need it to do. I want a system that will give me some backups, sharing files, because I have a lot of computers in my office and I want to be able to share files easily without hassle. And I remember the days before I had this where, you know, the Windows network might set that up, and then a Linux computer might set that up, and then I'm having all these different things. Every time I install new computers, I'm having to mess with shared folders, and it became a giant nightmare. And so I decided to put a NAS drive in here, and it's just like made everything perfect, because that now controls all of the server folders on the whole network. And so I don't have to worry about any of that stuff anymore. So it is based on Debian. The current version, the current stable, is based on Debian 8. There is a Debian 9 coming out. As far as the plugins available, we have ClamAV, NetAtalk, which is like an Apple, not NetAtalk. There's something, I don't know. There is an Apple VoIP system. USB backup stuff. There's a variety of other things, including a plugin that I have installed that allows me to simply plug in my external USB drive here, and it will make a copy of everything that's internal onto that drive, which is a very useful thing to have. And so this is where you can get the information. There is a lot of documentation. There is a good support forum, so you can usually get all the help that you need. So you can download your packages over here. So you can see here's various ARM, Odroid images, here's your Raspberry Pi images, and then you can go back and grab even some of the first versions of the system that they've had. And so there's a whole lot of really good functionality here that you can grab from the downloads. Usually you want to just grab the most recent ones. This is a NAS drive, so you do want to make sure it's reasonably secure. Of course, I keep mine behind a firewall. I don't allow any outside access to mine. I do have a Raspberry Pi VPN installed, so if I do need to access it from the outside, I do it through a VPN that is rarely turned on. So that is some of the security functionality that I take care of. None of this is on the end. So when I first come into here, it tells me the connection is not secure. Of course, I've never logged into this from this computer before. So and that's because this is all an internal thing, so I'm not worried about setting up SSL. You can install a Let's Encrypt module and get an SSL on your system. I'm not going to worry about that. So I'm just going to go ahead and confirm that security exception, and that should take us to a login screen. So I have to start by selecting my language. It should give me a language select, but let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go ahead and hit this. It's going to give me an error because I'm not able to select my language, but hello. I've never had the problem of not being able to select my language. That's very interesting. Let me reload the page. Hello, language select. I've never had this problem before. I've been playing with the system all day. I can't select my language. Kind of like that, you know, that the car problems that you have, right? Your car problems are never, you never see problems with your car when you take it to the mechanic, right? And I'm wondering if it's, I'm wondering if there's a problem with this version of Firefox, because I've been using this on a different version of Firefox. See how you pull this down, and this is supposed to give me a pull down box. So, I don't know if you're watching from OpenMediaVault. I don't know why I can't seem to log in here. That's kind of goofy. But I know some of the later versions of Firefox has just been getting weird. In all honesty, I'm gonna try over in Chromium. See if I can get it working in Chromium. Yeah. Works in Chromium just fine. There's something goofy with Firefox, with this version of Firefox on this. I was doing all my testing earlier from a Windows computer. Has a different version of this. So okay, well, give me a second. Let me move my screen around. Firefox is kind of starting to suck in many respects. Anybody notice that? I'm not sure if the Quantum's going to make it better or worse or what, but... Alright, there we are. Skip Firefox, we're going with Chromium. Okay, so here we are. We have just logged into our control panel setting here. So this gives me my basic services. You'll see what I keep turned on here. I do not keep FTP turned on. I pretty much keep all the services turned off that I do not plan on using on a regular basis. What do I use this for? Sharing files between computers and as a media server. So if I happen to be hanging out anywhere near my network or attached to my network on my VPN, I can actually come into my VLC and I will have I'll have my OpenDLN down here, which is the Open Media server. This is served on OpenMediaVault. So that is the purpose of that. So any computer that supports that, I have mini DLNA turned on. That gives me a media server, and then we'll show you how you can select your folders. I keep NFS turned off. I keep rsync off. SMB is turned on. And you'll see SSH is turned off. I will come in here and manually turn this on if I need to do anything on the operating system itself. A whole lot better than plugging a monitor into the stupid thing. So I turn that guy on when I need it, and I keep it off otherwise. Everything there is just to make sure the thing is secure as possible. Now this is only on my system. It's not accessible to the world. I intentionally haven't done so, so it's only accessible on my network here. And so, you know, host name, OpenMediaVault. You can set notifications. I could have this thing email me, but no, please no. Too many emails as this. Power management. We have this set up so if I just push the button on the front of the computer, it'll trigger the shutdown code, which is very handy if I need to shut the thing down intentionally. Here's certificates, which I don't have any because I don't care. You can do scheduled jobs. So if you have some type of script you'd like to run, you can set this on some type of schedule, maybe an rsync script you've written or something like that. You can set that on a schedule. Here's your update manager. I have several updates to do. One of the reasons I did the backup today is I'm going to push these updates here today. I always prefer to do a manual backup of the system before I push updates because I've had this thing crash on me before and then that ruins your day. So this is your plugin directory where you can access your plugins. I have the backup plugin. What this does is it actually is going to take another backup of the actual drive and dump it onto the system, in which case I could actually manually copy it back over to the system. I still prefer doing the disk images. I think it's a little bit better. The one that I did here earlier. Let's see. I have the USB backup installed. This allows me to plug in a USB hard drive and it'll automatically sync the hard drive to my RAID system. And what else do I have installed? I don't think I have anything else installed. No. Oh yeah, the mini DLNA is a plugin. There's another plugin for LuxCrypt. So if you do want to encrypt the drive, encrypt any of the folders, you have that option as well. I should probably do that. I haven't, but I should probably do that. So the backup, this guy here is, this will tell you where you're going to back everything up. All right, so let's go ahead and continue walking down through here, and then I see there's some questions coming in, so we're going to hit those questions after I walk through at least part of this. So to set up everything, the first thing you need to do is look at your physical disks. So there's 3 physical disks. You'll see that these 2 here, they're actually mirror images. They're the exact same model. See, the serial number, of course, differs. They're 1 terabyte disks. And then the cruiser fit is the actual operating system. So that's the physical disks that the system sees. Here's smart settings. So I can actually go in here and see what the statuses are. So you can click on these and see any information. And then I believe you can actually have these things mail you information or whatever else. I haven't bothered setting that up. Here's your RAID management. So you can see that we have this set up as a mirror image. So these disks are a mirror image of one another. I did this so that if one of them fails, then I still have the other disk. Then, of course, on a monthly basis, I plug that USB drive in, and then I keep that in a physical separate location. Keep that physically off-site, and that will give me access to all my backups. Now, of course, this is more of a production-type system, so this does not have full system backups. This does not have the backups of my work computers. This does not have the backups of all my personal files. I don't want any of that on a NAS. The NAS is the things that I need here and there. It's the media I want to listen to. It's the files being shared between things. It's the photographs. It's that kind of stuff. But I keep all the personal documents, the old archives, those silly little things we all have on our computers. I keep those on a completely separate location off of this system. All right, now the file systems. This guy here, you can see how the file systems are doing. You can see that we are more than over capacity, and that's because I have the, this also stores a backup of all of my YouTube videos are on this, which I really want to get these off of here, but regardless, that's what I have under those. Now, as far as user management, I have 2 users installed. The admin is a user that has access to all of the folders on my file system. The NetShare user only has access to the NetShare folder. Now, what we're going to do is I'll show you how to build a folder, and I'll show you how to make a publicly accessible folder. That's a very nice folder for having that in the office so that I can share things between the different computers on the network without actually having to log in, because I'll invariably do an image on this computer, I need it on this computer, drop it in the folder, and I don't want to have to mess with entering passwords. I also don't want to save passwords on the computers, because if you do that, an encrypto virus can get in there and mess with things. But if it's isolated into one public folder, they could encrypt that, but nothing else. All right. Now, your shared folders. This is where your system starts to shine, where you start to show the systems that you have. So I have my admin, and what you'll see is that the admin folder is actually the root directory. All of the other folders that I have are in other locations. And so with that, the admin access, which my admin user account can access everything from the root directory on, and that means that it can access everything. The NetShare only has accessibility through the NetShare user and the admin user. All of the other things do not have any other access. So in order to access any of these, I need my master admin login. So my NetShare is one of the default systems I use to share files back and forth. And so the backup, this goes to my master backup, which is stored on a completely offline computer right here. Anything that goes into there on a monthly basis gets dropped into that operating system, but I keep stuff over there just to make sure things are going. I have Christian video, I have basic documents. The basic documents is kind of like a working folder of current work projects. Not everything, just the current stuff that I need, or it might be tabs, resources, stuff like that. I have my music, which my media players stream from. I have pictures, I have video. Calibri is my book server, so this gives me the ability to serve my books. I can't remember if my book server actually uses and feeds from this, or if they actually feed. I thought they fed on the internal, but I can't remember. But regardless, this is a backup of my book server. I think that's how I have it set up. Work videos are my YouTube videos. So I have a variety of different folders set up in here. And then on each one of these folders, you can come up here to your privileges. And this is where you can set who has access to what. So you'll see that admin has access to everything in root, and that by default gives admin access to everything because it is at the root of the system. But you'll see that my NetShare, this only has privileges through the NetShare. Of course, the admin has it because the NetShare is included in the root directory. So that's how I have this system set up. Now, what we're going to do, though, is I want to show you how to add a new folder and make it publicly accessible to any computer that is on your network. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the Add button up here, and I'm going to call this OpenShare. And then what I want to do is select a device. So this is going to select any of the disks that are available. So this RAID system is what we're going to do. And then the path is OpenShare. And then I'm going to set my permissions to everyone read write and hit save. Now, that is not actually going to make it available for everyone, which seems a little goofy because what are we missing? We're missing the SMB share. And so we have to do that later. So what we're going to do now is, now that that is there, you'll see that it's referenced says no, and that means that this thing will not be seen by the basic SMB. You also see I have this one called backup, which is also not referenced. I can view these two if I log into the admin, but if I actually go to my SMB, you will not see it. So I'm going to go ahead and show you that now. Okay, let me come over to... All right, so here is this setup. So you'll see that the backup and that new OpenShare are not there. Now, if I come into my admin and I click on my admin and I log into the admin, which I'm going to do off screen. Okay, you'll see that now once I've logged into admin, now I can see the backup and I can see the OpenShare. Okay. All right, so now we're going to close that one down. And then what we're going to do is we're going to go down into services, and I'm going to hit SMB CIFS. You'll see that this is enabled, and then I want to go over to the shares button here. And then what I want to do is I want to hit add. Okay, so what you'll see is missing here is the OpenShare that I had and the backup that I had. That is what's making this not show up in that list when I just click on the directory. So I'm going to hit add, and then select the shared folder. I'm going to pull this down, and I'm going to find my OpenShare. And OpenShare there. I'm going to select from public. I'm going to say guests allowed. Only guests means that even my logged in users can't access it. I'm going to say guests allowed, which means that whether I'm logged in or whether I'm not logged in, this is available. This is going to make it easy for me to share files in this one folder between all my computers on my network without having a login, which is low security stuff. It's just, there's a picture. I need to get it over here from over there. So we need to do that. I can set read only. I can set browsable. I can set honor existing ACLs. So there's a variety of things. So enabling recycling bin. I usually keep these turned off. I just delete something and it's gone. That's a security thing. You can turn that on or turn that off. So I'm going to hit save. And then once that's done, you have to hit apply to take place. So I'm going to go ahead and hit apply there. And then we'll give that a chance to apply. All right, so now when I go into my network, you'll see now that my OpenShare is available. If I go into pictures, I think that's still going to let me in because I've already logged into the system on admin, so I can't prove this to you that this is available, but you'll see, it is available to us. I'd have to log out and log back in order to show you that. But let me actually just come over here on this computer. I'm just going to test it on the computer that's behind me and make sure that that works. So I'm going to go over here to network. Now I actually have a share which goes to admin. Okay, we're going to go back to that. I'm going to go into music. I've already logged in on this computer too. Okay, let's see. I know that setup's going to work. I'm just going to declare it. I've done this many times. So I'm going to leave that there available to look at. So now I can access this OpenShare on any computer without actually having to log into the system. All right, so next thing, let's have a look at the other services. So DLNA is the service that I have that allows me to have a media server. So you can see we have this turned on. And then what we're going to do is come over into your share and you can pick which folders. So you see I don't have pictures shared. Pictures is just not something I necessarily want to share on my media server necessarily. But I will serve the video, the music, the sermons, things like that. So to add a folder, just click on the add, come down here, grab whatever shared folder you'd like to share. So if I wanted to share the pictures, I just click it over here, and then you can select the type of media that it is, audio, images, or video, or all media, and then that's going to add that to that folder. And so that is how you can go ahead and do that. Once again, hit save. You're going to have to save the configuration. If you do want to enable these other services, for example, I frequently enable SSH. So enabling SSH, I just come in here, click on this button. I can adjust the port if I want. If this were open to the internet, I'd change the port, but since it's all internal, I just kind of keep it as it is. But that's kind of how you do it. Again, turn this on, click save, and then you're going to get that yellow box to fix save the configuration again. So the USB backup, this is a plugin. So this guy here is set up so I can come over here. You need to pick the folder that you're going to use. So we're moving from the shared folder into the external storage. If I had a system failure and I needed to restore, I can reverse it and go from the external storage to the shared folder. So shared, I just want to make sure I keep this correct. Shared folder to external storage. Okay, so the shared folder, and I'm pulling my main admin, which will make a duplicate of everything I have on the system. And then it's going to pull to whatever the storage device is, which is not actually plugged in right now. And then I'm going to synchronize everything. I can recurse into all directories. I can preserve modification times. I can compress it if I want to. Let's see. Update permissions. and then I can send command output via email. So if I just go ahead and save that, it'll work. So with this enabled, then if I plug that drive in, it should automatically load. I'm going to go ahead and plug that drive in right now. And when you plug it in, it should detect the drive and automatically start doing a backup. And it should be running in the background. I'm not sure how I can tell for sure. If I need to know for sure if it's running, it looks like it's running right now. I'm seeing disk activity on the drive itself. But if I click this run button, it'll do a full backup. The problem is it locks the rest of my display. So I'm just going to kind of let that thing go, and it should be doing a backup. I'll figure out how I can see if it's actually running later. Maybe I can check the system information or whatever else. But that USB backup function is a very nice system because I can now just plug in a USB drive, and you can set different drives so it'll log the serial number. And so if I just do different drives, I can do different backups. So one of them I might, move the data over and then close it. Another one I might, I might do something else. So here's our dashboard. I'm just going to try and see if I can find anything in here. So here's my current CPU usage. It's only using 6% of RAM, 36% CPU. Okay, current processes. Let's see what this is doing. Okay. System logs. Getting unsupported time zones. Yeah, that's the one thing I just can't tell if the thing is actually running its backup. It should be, but I just can't tell for sure if it's running. It will over here. I can actually let's see. Yep. Yeah, I can't tell if it's actually running or not. So probably what I'll end up doing is I'll just leave it on there and kind of let it go for the evening, and then I'll pull it out and check the drive and see what's on it. Based on, I was going to do a backup today before I started the video, but it would have taken a long time. I was running a manual backup. So it should be going. I just don't know if there's a place. Jump over the comments again, and then I'll come back and have a look at it in a minute. Okay, so for the USB sync, I can't really see that it's actually doing anything. It really does work very very silently in the background, maybe too silently in the background. But if I come down here to system logs and I can see the system logs, you'll see that this latest file here, it's in the process of copying one from the other. And so I've been monitoring this here just to make sure, and that's exactly what it's doing, is it's still copying these files over into the drive. So I know it's working. I really wish, and if the developer of this plugin is watching, I wish there was some indication it's working in status, because what I'd like to do is have this thing copy itself over, and then I want to pull it out and go store it somewhere. And I want some indication when it's done. Although I think I can go into the settings and set some type of notification, maybe send me an email when it's done, or a log or something like that. But I can come into the system logs and I can see that it is actually still copying. So I guess one of the things I'll do is I'll just leave it on for a while and then check the system logs, and when the system logs are done, then I guess it's done. So so that's that. So that is what I wanted to show you guys on OpenMediaVault. Hopefully that's been helpful for you. If you like to support what we are doing, you can check out switchtolinux.com/support, and that'll show you all of the ways that you can currently help support us. So thank you for watching, and I hope that you enjoy switching to Linux.